All right, let's carry on. The widespread availability of service robots has resulted from several developments that allowed robots to become mobile, interactive machines. Artificial intelligence has not met its early promise of truly intelligent machines, but researchers in the emerging field of human robotic interaction have implemented artificial intelligence techniques for the expression of emotion, language interaction, speech perception, and face recognition. So let's go ahead and look at this a little bit. I'm going to zoom in. So we might need to focus a bit. What we have, I want to look at this first sentence here that says, the widespread availability of service robots has resulted from several developments that allowed robots to become mobile, interactive machines. So we've got increased. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out a little bit. Leads to, so increased developments means because we've got, it's resulted from, so more robots. That's what we get from this first sentence. So the widespread availability of service robots has resulted from several developments that allowed robots to become mobile, interactive machines. So the more development has meant more robots. So we've got this idea that they're mobile, interactive. We've got artificial intelligence, which can also be AI. I'll go ahead and make that note here. And we might not be exactly sure what that is, but we can learn about what that means from these next couple sentences. Has not met its early promise of truly intelligent machines. So this idea of a truly intelligent machine, and that has a specific meaning in this context, and we'll learn a little bit about what that specific meaning is from the next couple phrases. But researchers in the emerging field of human-robot interaction have implemented artificial intelligence techniques for the expression of emotion, language interaction, speech perception, and face recognition. So these are all these attributes that they're trying to give to these robots. So this is what we have when we have this truly intelligent machine. We're going to have something that is like a human. So that's what they're trying to say here. So the goal is robot intelligence. So I put robot intel. So for robot intelligence equals human intelligence. So that's the goal here. And I realize that word looks kind of like good, but that's, these are my own notes. So we can kind of learn that from this paragraph that, you know, more development has resulted in more robots, and the goal is these robots that have the same abilities as humans. So we're not there yet. They have some capabilities, some of these like things that look like emotion, language interaction, speech perception, and face recognition. So that's the main idea of this paragraph right here. All right. So sophisticated control algorithms have been developed and have been combined with advances in sensor technology, nanotechnology, materials science, mechanical engineering, and high-speed miniaturized computing. With the prices of robot manufacture falling, robots were 80% cheaper in 2006 than they were in 1990. Service robots are set to enter our lives in unprecedented numbers. So what we're talking about here is that there's a lot of technology that goes into these, and they're becoming cheaper. So, you know, technology is increasing. We can kind of see, you know, these even if you're not sure what all these words mean, you can kind of get a sense of like this word like algorithm, technology, nanotechnology, materials science, mechanical engineering. All of these are showing like, you know, that the technology is getting better and the prices are going down. So, and they're set to enter our lives in unprecedented numbers. So you may not be sure what unprecedented means, but you can probably guess that, like, because we're seeing them becoming more, this means, the idea is that it's going to be a lot more. So unprecedented is more like unexpected or hasn't happened before. You can see this pre, meaning like from before. So it hasn't happened before. So the idea, I think, we've got in our third paragraph here. And the idea is you can kind of break down these chunks. You can see these different parts and get some of these main ideas. So we've got this increase in technology. And this decrease in robot price is going to lead to this idea that, increase in what they call service robots. So that's what we see from these different words right here. So let's go ahead and look at the next paragraph, which is paragraph 4. In the area of personal care robots, Japanese and South Korean companies have developed child-minding robots that have facilities for video game playing, conducting verbal quiz games, speech recognition, face recognition, and conversation. Mobility and semi-autonomous function are ideal for visual and auditory monitoring. Radio frequency identification tags provide alerts when children move out of range. The robots can be controlled by mobile phone or from a window on a PC that allows input from camera eyes and remote talking from caregivers. So you can even think about, like, before you go to like try and find some of these main ideas, I encourage you to interact with the text and think about, like, oh, they've got a PC. What about smartphone? About smartphone, like, you can ask some of these things. Look at some other things that kind of jump out at you. So I'm trying to think of what kind of, is interesting for me. Maybe this idea that, this is happening. Would I be comfortable with this? So, these ideas of, a robot taking care of my kid, is this something that I'd be comfortable with? You can think about it like that. So, we can see that we have, they're describing here, like these child care robots. So they're describing the child care robots, and you can even make, these things like quiz game. You can make notes about the quiz game, the face recognition, conversation. What they're capable of doing. And there may be a way that you're not able to understand totally everything. So this idea of visual and auditory monitoring, that's just saying that they can see and hear the children. You've got radio frequency identification tags provide alerts when children move out of range. So that's just talking about the technology that will let children, make sure that they're staying nearby. And they did say mobile phone. So I guess I missed that, but that's good. You can go back and read, and also, learn a little bit more. Maybe you want to ask something like, can parents interfere. So maybe they see something going wrong. What can they do? They can watch, but can they be a part of the action? Can they maybe even, have their face showing up and like so that they can like video chat with their child? I don't know. So they've got these different, you can ask these questions so you can think about, how this might work. I'm just going to put child care robots there. There's you can add some more details if you want, but that catches the gist of it. So next we've got research on child-minding robots in the United States using the Sony Curio, I think that's how that's spelled or pronounced, and large-scale testing by NEC in Japan with their Papero have demonstrated close bonding and attachment by children, who in most cases prefer a robot to a teddy bear. So that may be like something that's kind of surprising to me, that children prefer a robot to a teddy bear. Also, maybe you want to ask, in what way? So it might be something like, if they want to cuddle with something, they'll choose a teddy bear. But if they want to do something interesting, they prefer the robot, which I can sympathize with. So you might be at first surprised, but then also want to ask, wait, in what way do they prefer a robot to a teddy bear? Short-term exposure can provide an enjoyable and entertaining experience that creates interest and curiosity. In the same way, television and computer games may be used by parents as an entertainment or distraction for short periods. They do not provide care, and the children still need human attention. However, because of the physical safety that robot minders provide, children could be left without human contact for many hours a day or perhaps for several days, and the possible psychological impact of the varying degrees of social isolation on development is unknown. So what we're seeing here, so here we talk about childcare robots. We've got a lot of this section. So how they work, work/functions. And here what we see is we're talking about like short-term robot child care. Okay, question mark. So they're saying, that there's ways that we even do that now. Doing that would be not so different from what we do now because, in the same way, television and computer games may be used by parents as an entertainment or distraction for short periods. So you can think about that. I'm thinking about, this idea of one question that's really interesting to me is how do parents manage screen time? And that's, kind of connected and something that, is related to this topic and something that I'm not sure how to answer. So we've got this idea of short-term robot childcare kind of seems to be okay. But so let's look at this next paragraph, see where we're going. What would happen if a parent were to leave a child in the safe hands of a future robot caregiver almost exclusively? So that means that we've got, exclusively means just one. So, or very limited. So that means that the parent is not with the child very much. It's going to be the robot almost the whole time. The truth is that we do not know what the effects of the long-term exposure of infants would be. We cannot conduct controlled experiments on children to find out the consequences of long-term bonding with a robot, but we can get some indication from early psychological work on maternal deprivation and attachment. So we've got this phrase right here, maternal deprivation and attachment. So if you know your Latin roots, you know that maternal means mother. So mother. And then we've got deprivation and attachment. So deprivation is like deprive. So that means that you don't have a mother. And then attachment is this idea of forming a connection with. So these words are kind of opposites. So this idea of not having a mother or having a connection with your mother and the relationship that that has on children. So mother with and without. Okay, so we can look at some of this to understand how children would be affected by robots. Studies of early development in monkeys have shown that severe social dysfunction occurs in infant animals allowed to develop attachments only to inanimate surrogates. So we've got, again, this word here, inanimate surrogates. You might not be totally sure what that means. And then we've also got this word here, dysfunction. These might be some words that you want to look up if you're not sure what they mean. So we've got development in monkeys. So we're thinking about like baby monkeys. And we've got this idea that severe social dysfunction. So that means that they don't learn how to be a monkey. They don't learn how to, interact with other monkeys or be a like happy, healthy, mentally healthy monkey. So infant animals, so these baby animals don't have good mental health if they only have relationships with inanimate. So that means, non-living, maybe like a robot or something like that, surrogate. And if you're not sure what surrogate means, that means like kind of like a substitute, so something in place of. So if you're not sure what these words mean, then I recommend looking it up. If you're not figuring it out from the context, look it up. Look up these words and then look at the whole sentence, put the sentence together. So let's look at this sentence again. Studies of early development in monkeys have shown that severe social dysfunction occurs in infant animals allowed to develop attachments only to inanimate objects. So what we see is monkeys with, and we should put, actually I'm gonna go ahead and start over. Baby monkeys. Let me see. With only in an. So that's going to stand for inanimate surrogates. So these like, I'm going to actually change that with only, let me see, I'm going to think of animal subs leads to less mental health. And one good question I'm going to bring up, like, in this way, do monkeys equal humans? We see this trend with monkeys, but does that mean it's the same with humans? That's a good question to ask when you're trying to use your critical thinking. You need to ask these questions. So let's look. We've got this idea of baby monkeys with only non-animal substitutes. They have worse mental health. So that means we can think about, like, what does that mean for robots and how if they're giving childcare to a child. So we know from our previous paragraph, we saw, okay, short-term childcare. That's probably okay. But then long-term robot equals unknown. For humans. Oops, can't see what I'm writing. So this long-term robot childcare is unknown for humans. And you can start to see like some of these patterns. And if you make these small notes, you can kind of compare them. So we've got short-term robot childcare, maybe equals okay, versus long-term robot childcare. We're not sure. So, and I want you to, pay attention to these bits of notes and see how they work together, see the relationship between the paragraphs, look at some of the questions that you're asking, what things are kind of sticking out to you, what things are interesting. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. Despite these potential problems, no international or national legislation or policy guidelines exist in terms of negligence, which has not yet been tested in court for robot surrogates and may be difficult to prove in the home relative to cases of physical abuse. There is no guidance from any international nanny code of ethics, nor even the UN Convention on the Rights of Children, except by interference. There is a vital need for public discussion to decide the limits of robot use before the industry and busy parents make the decisions themselves. So we've got this, these ideas here. And so we're kind of looking at, we've seen so far that the problem, we've sort of got this definition of the problem. And we're thinking about maybe, kind of what some of these solutions might be. So let's look. Or what we're showing here right now is that, so I'm going to write at the moment, no rules for robot childcare, but we need them. So that's what I'm writing, because we can see in this last sentence that that's what Sharkey is arguing for. So there's a vital need for public discussion to decide the limits of robot use before the industry and busy parents make the decision themselves. So we can think about like, oh, what are some times that the industry and busy parents or, consumers in general, maybe that's a question we want to ask ourselves. So when have companies and customers made decisions and it's maybe I'm trying to say and it's bad, so negative sign, and it's good. So these are some questions like, maybe, companies and customers making these decisions, maybe we need these councils because right now there's like situations like Facebook and other social media using the users, the customers' data and trying to, think about and using it without, really many rules from like governments or UN or groups like that. So that's what we've got in terms of the children and those childcare robots. So I hope that you can kind of see that from our notes, from this close reading, we can learn about the idea that there are, this increase in robots, this increase in technology means that these things become possible. These things become much more accessible. And with these childcare robots, we have some ideas about how they function. We know that short term, or we can kind of assume that short term's probably okay. Long term, it's unknown, but doesn't look that good based on what we know about monkeys, and that baby monkeys with like only an inanimate object, which could be like a robot, their mental health and their development doesn't go well. So that's worrisome for humans. So I'm going to write that now. Unknown for humans, but worrisome. And then I'm going to draw a line here so I can kind of see the separation. So at the moment, there are no rules for robot childcare, but we need them. So that's what we know about Sharkey and what he says about robot childcare.